You close the back door, and for one strange second, your yard does nothing. The feeder hangs still. The bird bath holds the sky. The fence, the shrubs, the bare branch above the patio. All of it looks empty, like the whole scene has paused, because you are no longer in it. But that is the part you usually miss. Because the second your shadow disappears from the glass, something in your yard begins again. A leaf trembles where there is no wind. A tiny shape shifts inside the hedge. Then a chickadee, or a sparrow, or a titmouse slips out from cover and lands where you were just standing near. It does not eat right away. It turns its head once, then again. One black eye checks the door. The other checks the sky. Your yard is not waking up. It was watching you leave. To you, walking inside is the end of the moment. You filled the feeder, carried the empty bag back in, maybe wiped your shoes on the mat. Ordinary. Finished. To the birds, it is the beginning of a calculation. Your footsteps meant disturbance. Your body meant size, unpredictability, risk. Even if you have never harmed a bird in your life, you are still a towering animal that appears with food, rearranges the world, and then vanishes behind a wall. So they wait. Not because they are simple, because they are careful. The small birds in your yard live in a world where one careless second can end everything. The feeder is not just a restaurant. It is a bright, exposed stage. Every seed comes with a question. Is this worth stepping into the open? That is why the first bird back is rarely relaxed. It lands light, almost spring-loaded. It does not bury its face in the food. It scans. A quick flick left, a sharp flick right. The head movements look nervous, but they are information gathering. Your yard has changed. You were there. Now you are gone. The bird is checking whether the danger left with you. Then comes the tiny decision that changes the whole yard. The bird takes one seed. Not a feast. Not a celebration. Just one. It darts away to a branch, a fence post, or the safety of a bush. And that single movement is like a green light, because the other birds were watching the watcher. From the lilac, from the gutter, from the neighbor's tree, eyes you never noticed have been measuring that first landing. If the scout survives the first few seconds, the yard loosens. Another bird drops in, then another. A cardinal arrives heavier, more deliberate. A finch clings sideways. A jay crashes in like it owns the place. And suddenly, the silence you left behind becomes a system. This is what makes your yard feel haunted once you understand it. The birds are not simply reacting to food. They are reacting to your absence. Your door closing becomes a signal. Your routine becomes part of their routine. The sound of the latch, the fading pressure of your steps, the stillness after your movement, all of it becomes readable. You thought you were observing them, but every morning they have been observing you. Has a bird in your yard ever done something that felt almost too intentional? Tell me what happened in the comments. Then the yard gets stranger, because the birds do not all experience your feeder the same way. The chickadee treats it like a raid. It flies in, grabs, disappears. A cardinal may sit longer, cracking seeds with slow force. A mourning dove might shuffle underneath, collecting what everyone else drops. A blue jay may arrive loudly enough to scatter half the crowd without touching them. What looks like chaos is actually rank, timing, hunger, fear, and memory colliding in the space outside your window. Some birds are bold because their bodies allow it. Some are cautious because caution is how small things stay alive. And some, especially the smarter corvids, like jays and crows, may remember far more about individual people than you expect. Researchers have shown that some wild birds can distinguish between individual humans who have posed a threat and humans who have not. In one study, wild magpies reacted specifically toward people who had previously approached their nests, while ignoring others who had not. So, when a bird freezes as you step onto the porch, it may not simply be seeing a human. It may be seeing you. You have a pattern. You come out at a certain hour. You carry certain objects. You move in certain ways. You may refill the feeder, open the hose, sweep the path, or stand too long with your coffee staring at the maple tree. To a bird, a pattern is survival. And after you go back inside, they compare the yard they remember with the yard in front of them. Is the feeder fuller? Is the dog still outside? Did the hawk silhouette cross the roof line? Did the branch move because of wind or because something is hiding there? This is where the peaceful backyard scene becomes a little darker, because your feeder attracts more than hungry birds. It attracts attention. A hawk can learn that feeders gather prey. A cat can learn where birds drop to the ground. A busy feeder is safer in one way because many eyes can spot trouble. But it is also riskier because commotion draws predators. So after you step inside, the birds are not just asking, "Is the human gone?" They are asking, "Who else noticed?" Sometimes the answer arrives as a sound so small you barely register it. A thin alarm note. The entire feeder explodes. 1 second, there are wings, seeds, soft bodies, little feet gripping plastic perches. The next second, there's nothing but swinging metal and a few holes drifting down. To you, it looks like a mystery. No cat, no hawk, no obvious threat. But somewhere, one bird saw a shape. Chickadees are famous for this. Their alarm calls can carry information about threat, and other species listen in. Cornell Lab notes that more than 50 species are known to respond to chickadee mobbing calls, turning a tiny bird's voice into a neighborhood alert system. Researchers have also found that black-capped chickadee calls can vary with predator size and danger, meaning those little sounds may contain more detail than your ear can separate. So, when you walk inside and the birds return, you are not watching isolated animals. You are watching a living security network. The sparrow watches the chickadee hears the jay, the dove reacts to the panic of the flock. Your yard is less like a peaceful decoration and more like a room where everyone is whispering, listening, and deciding whether to risk one more bite. And then there are the birds that do not even stay. A chickadee may take a seed and vanish, not because it is afraid to eat in front of you, but because eating at the feeder is slow, and exposure is expensive. It carries the seed to cover, pins it under its feet, and hammers it open in private. In colder months, some birds cache food, hiding pieces of the good days against the harder ones. That means the seed you poured out this morning may not become breakfast. It may become a secret, a tiny insurance policy tucked into bark, wedged under a shingle, hidden in the cracks of your world. Above you, behind you, around the edges of the yard, there may be a map of remembered places no human can read. The fence post is not just a fence post. The corner of the shed is not empty. It may be part of a bird's private winter. This is why the second you walk inside matters so much. It is the moment your yard becomes theirs again, but not completely. Your absence does not erase you. It leaves a shape behind. The birds may return after you close the door, but they do not forget the door. They keep checking it. Watch closely, and you will see it. A bird facing the feeder, then snapping its head toward the house. A pause when your curtain moves. A sudden lift of wings when your hand appears at the window. You are inside, but you are still part of the risk, and strangely, part of the safety. People who feed birds often respond to what they see. Moving feeders after cats appear, cleaning when sick birds show up. A study connected to Project Feeder Watch found that backyard bird feeding is not a one-way act. People observe, feel, adjust, and change the conditions birds return to. So, the birds outside your window are not living in untouched nature. They are living in relationship, not friendship in the human sense. Something older and more practical. You alter the yard, they study the alteration. You provide food, they test the danger. You step away, and they enter the space you leave behind. And over time, both sides change. They begin to notice you as weather, as threat, as opportunity, as the large creature behind the glass, whose habits can be learned. The door closes, and the yard does not become empty. It becomes active in a way you were never meant to see directly. The feeder swings because a bird has landed. The branch lifts because another has left. A cardinal pauses in the open, glowing red against the dull fence, and for one breath, it looks straight at the house. Not through the house. At it. The next time you step back inside, do not walk away immediately. Stand just beyond the glass. Let the yard believe you are gone, and watch what returns to the space shaped exactly like you. If this changed the way you see your yard, subscribe. There's so much more happening out there than most people ever notice.